Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you for joining me. Alissa Mccommon, her lawyer, has decided to speak with Law and Crime Network, and he feels that there is a public witch hunt exacted on his client already. People have already decided that some have decided that she is guilty. There is no proof that she has committed any crimes against said children. Said child that has brought forth allegations of sexual improprieties by her to him. There's no proof that she is the one speaking on the audio played in court last week. So what I have to ask the attorney, then who is on the audio, sir? Who is on the audio? How did they get the child's phone number? That's what I'd like to know. Please check out my content from last night pertaining to this storyline. This is a continuation because this is an active case, ongoing case of an allegation of sexual assault against a boy child who is still a minor. Law and Crime Network is the source.
A Tennessee teacher charged with raping her underage student is now allegedly pregnant with a 12-year-old's unborn child. For the first time, we're hearing her side of the story, straight from her defense attorney. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Sierra Gillespie. Now, it's a story Law and Crime Network has been following since it broke in early September. That's when 38-year-old Alissa Mccommon was arrested for the first time after prosecutors say she raped one of her former students in her own home. Investigators say Mccommon'S, who taught school in Covington, Tennessee, about an hour northeast of Memphis, used video games to contact her former students outside of school. After that, officials say the conversations spilled over into social media apps, which led to explicit photos being sent. In late August, Tennessee investigators were tipped off about the issue when the 12-year-old victim's parents came forward. Since then, multiple of Mccommon'S former students have also made similar allegations. As Law and Crime Network reported, Mccommon'S was released on $25,000 bond after her first arrest. But just weeks later, she was back in the Tipton County Jail after she allegedly contacted one of her victims.
Alissa. Brief intermission. So what is the truth? All this is made up. No one was assaulted. Different children have what? Rallied together to take down a fourth grade teacher. Is that what you're saying, sir, about your client and the allegations against her? Someone got a hold of the child's phone number and made these fake allegations to further get her in trouble. Is that what you're saying, sir? Interesting. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. There's a picture of your client walking up some steps, I'm assuming to the jail. Why is she smiling in that photo, sir? Since this is all a terrible, terrible mistake. You all are going to hear some very interesting commentary in this Law and Crime segment. He knows Mrs. Mccommon, rather. His child was in her class. How about that? Very interesting.
Investigators say prior to either of Mccommon'S arrests, she used a code word to communicate with students. They say the special word was used to ensure the victim was alone at the time, and after that, prosecutors say Mccommon'S would send explicit photos to the students. They also say she used that same code word while out in bond last month to message the boy with threatening comments, saying he would regret going to the authorities. After her second arrest on September 28th, prosecutors alleged she used that code word again. For that, she was charged with harassment, coercion of a witness, and stalking. This time, she's being held without bond. But days after her arrest, this shocking voice recording was played in open court, alleging Mccommon's is now pregnant with the 12-year-old boy's child. We've heard from prosecutors and investigators, but for the first time, we're hearing Mccommon's side of the story straight from her defense attorney, Jerry Mason. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm going to hold right there. Maybe there's some truth to what someone said on the network about her trying to get this child to not say anything. He's already said something, so we're past that stage, Alissa. But the comment, when the baby comes out looking like you, I won't say anything to you again. I won't bother you. Well, I'm sure his parents are going to make sure you don't say and bother him until he's actually an adult and he decides he wants to further have communication with you. But right now, he being a minor, I would assume his parents are going to do whatever they have to do to make sure you have no contact with their son. They will possibly be monitoring all his social media pages, data, and everything. At this point, I'm sure they don't even want their son to have access to a cell phone or a landline. But I believe possibly that was your way of trying to get him to not say anything further, is to say, well, I'm pregnant by you. When you realize the baby looks like you, which how's he going to find out how the baby looks? Unless there's some contact, once again, by himself or by his family. I do believe this was her way of trying to get him to stop talking. Not to go forward, not to testify, recant, whatever. Slick move. But will it work? Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start at the very top. Your client maintains her innocence?
Yes, she was accused, obviously, I guess we're working on 6 weeks or so ago, of a very serious offense. And she denies her guilt in that charge, and then also maintains her innocence on the follow-up charges that she acquired while on bond.
So this is a story at Long Crime we've been covering since it first broke in early September, but we've had multiple follow-up stories because more developments continue to come. The most recent involves a voice recording that was played in court with an alleged bombshell, a pregnancy bombshell. What do you have to say about that recording?
Well, I mean, my focus is on what was actually presented in court, and I think it's important for everyone to understand that this was not a trial. This was a bond revocation hearing. The judge only had to hear enough evidence, in the judge's opinion, rise to probable cause, which is a very low burden of proof, to decide whether she would reinstate the original bond or set a new bond. She felt there was at least enough probable cause to hold Ms. Mccommon's with no bond at the moment, so she did revoke the bond. As far as the recording that was played, the only verification that they had that was Ms. Mccommon's was a detective who admitted that he had only spoke with her very briefly several weeks ago. The voice was very agitated on there, so I assume when he spoke with her, she wasn't. I just think that it was limited evidence presented that it was her. Now, that's not to say it was or wasn't her. I don't know. I mean, it's just what the proof is going to show, and they didn't present a victim, an alleged victim or anything. They just had the detective testify that was her voice. That was literally the only proof that was from her. And they had text messages also, but neither the text number or the voice call number is registered anywhere. So they had no record of where the phone number ties to, who it's tied to, and they still don't have the phone. So, I mean, I understand the judge's position, but it was limited proof on it actually being Ms. Mccommon's.
I was going to ask about that number that was not registered. That's kind of interesting, something I haven't seen very much. So what do we do moving forward with that? Is that something that the defense is going to try to combat and say, okay, we looked it up, it is not Mccommon's phone number? What are the next steps there?
Well, I don't know that there's much we will do on that end. At this point, the burden is all on the state. It's what they present. And I know that they're trying to locate this phone. I talked to one of the detectives, and
All right, brief intermission. Oh my goodness. They're trying to locate the phone. Where's the phone? Did she throw away the phone right after speaking to the child or texting? Where is the phone? Will they find CCTV footage of her purchasing a phone somewhere or ordering it online? Oh, Lord have mercy. What a mess. What a mess. What a fine mess. I just can't wait till you all hear the next bit of information. Gonna blow your mind.
Was on, but they said there was some way they could maybe trace where the phone was. I'm not sure how they do all that. But I know they're looking for the phone. I think they did confirm the number was from one of the phones that a lot of people will buy and dispose of. So I don't know where the phone came from. I don't know if they can trace where that phone originated, where it was purchased, anything like that. All I know is for the moment, to my knowledge, they don't have the phone or confirmation who the number goes to.
And again, this is a story that people across the country have been following for weeks, but after the announcement, I guess, during court with that reporting saying that someone is pregnant, it made a lot more news. So that's what I kind of want to focus on now. Have you spoken with McCommon? Is she pregnant?
Well, I can't confirm or deny any of that at this moment. I know basically what you guys have heard from the hearing. To my knowledge, there's no medical evidence right now that she is or isn't pregnant. That's yet to be seen. I will say that I started the hearing off, and this has not gotten a lot of coverage. I requested a continuance based on a motion I filed for a mental evaluation of Ms. McCommon. And my position on that was there had been some statements made to me that gave me pause on my ability to represent her. Part of what, as a defense lawyer, I have to be comfortable with is that the information I'm getting from my client is accurate and reliable, and they understand everything. And I mean, anyone, again, not to make light of the allegations, but anyone in this position, guilty or innocent, is going to be under tremendous mental pressure. And I just felt that there was no reason to push a hearing forward when I was agreeing to postpone the hearing and allow her to stay in jail, no risk to anyone, just to do the mental evaluation so we could check that box to see, some outside entity could tell us what her current state is, if she understood everything. And the judge did grant my motion for the mental evaluation, which is probably going to happen this week, and then denied the continuance motion. The next hearing, the judge said, is supposed to be the preliminary hearing on all the allegations, but the judge did say that 10 more she would check with the lawyers to see if we've gotten the results of the mental evaluation. I anticipate if we have not gotten those results, the judge will probably continue that preliminary hearing.
That's definitely something that we'll follow up on here, whether those results are made public, if the hearing is postponed, things like that. So that is definitely good to know. But if we zero in on Mccommon'S alleged interactions here with her former student, this is where it all began. Before she was arrested the second time, before this pregnancy bombshell, with these alleged interactions with her former students. So does she deny contacting her students at all?
Well, she hasn't done either at the moment. I mean, as I stated, the state is the only one that's put any proof on, and we're not at a point yet where we put on any even defenses, honestly, other than just state her position, which is she says she's not guilty of the offenses. So I only know what you know, and I can't confirm or deny whether she had contact with them. I will say this, this is something that I thought was interesting, but nobody else is covering. My child was her student. My youngest son was in her class in 5th grade, and she was a great teacher. We had no problems with her. We've even been friends with her and her husband for a long time. I was a deputy here in Tippecanoe County, and so was he, and we were deputies together. And so we were very friendly, and that's kind of how they knew me. So, I mean, I've known her for a while, and saying that doesn't mean that she's innocent, obviously, and I hope it doesn't mean that I have any bias towards her, because I'm going to do my job regardless. But I have known them, and they were not, just on a personal note, she never struck me as anyone that would do anything like this. So, we'll just have to see what the proof holds out on all that.
That is an interesting fact that you said that your son was actually in her class. So did you see any red flags? Would you at this point be uncomfortable if your son happened to be alone with her?
Wow.
Well,
Good question.
I mean, it's very likely he
So
could have gone in the room with her. I'm not
R.
sure.
Kelly
I did
question.
ask him, how his relationship was with her then and now, and he's very complimentary of her. Says nothing awkward or weird ever happened. She's a good teacher. She's not contacted him since then. He's 18 now, but he's a senior in high school. But he would have been, 12, 13 at the time in her in elementary school.
Let me interject right here. So he knows Mrs. Mccommon'S in a personal manner. He was a deputy at the time that her husband was a deputy. As you see now, he's an attorney. His youngest child was taught by Miss Alissa. The son is now 18 years of age. The son has been very complimentary of her, which I guess that means he has said nothing negative about the teacher. And then this kind lady decides to throw a little salt in the game and says, well, would the son be around her now? How would you feel about your son being around her now? And that's a damn good question. Are you hearing this? So this is an R. Kelly question right here. Would you allow or care for your son to be around her now? I guess basically saying you don't have no problem with it. Because nothing happened to his son. Well, let's dissect that for just a minute. Maybe your son wasn't her type. Because we don't even know how far back this fetish she has for young boys go. She's only 36. So we don't even know when she started messaging boys and interacting inappropriately with boys. And I don't know if Miss Mccommon'S has a type or not. Or there was something special about the one boy, but then one could say, well, it couldn't be nothing too special about him because there are other allegations of other boys. So you're entitled to your opinion if you believe the allegation against boy one and also the other boys that have come forward. Because when you have more victims, then one's going to ask the ultimate question. Is there a type? Is there a type that she likes? Are they blonde-haired, brown-haired, tall, short, stubby? What? How did it come about? She just decided to reach out to a kid. What was it about the one kid she reached out to? Why that kid? But as I said, when you start bringing in multiple children, one could say perhaps she has a fetish for children, that it doesn't matter. So, sir, you're lucky and your son is lucky that he wasn't her type or didn't tickle her fancy at that time when he had her as a teacher. Just saying.
I did ask him if, he's in the same school where the alleged victim is, and I asked him what kids are going to talk. And so what are they saying?
Exactly.
Are their kids saying anything? And he said that he knew of no one that was saying anything other than she had been a good teacher with them. But, like I also said, I know that, people do different.
That's something I was curious about. Gossip. I said that last night during the live stream, that people talk, children gossip, boys gossip. Has anything been said about her? He says his child has not heard anything negative about the teacher. His son is still in the school system, the district. So how did these other boys come forward? We have to ask that question. How did the other boys come forward after the first child brought forward an allegation? Did detectives go look for other children or seize information, data, iPads, phones, computers, where they saw she had messaged children, sent pictures, emails, so on and so forth, and that's how they found the children? So that's what I want to know. How were the other children discovered? because he's a minor, that's not going to be public information which child it is in the school system that's brought forward an allegation. Nobody would know that but the parents and whoever they told and the investigators. Okay? So how did the other children come forward with information pertaining to interacting with Mrs. McCommon? I'm very curious about that.
And I just focus on what proof has been presented. And in my opinion, we just got limited proof right now that any of this allegations occurred.
If we're looking at the timeline of this case so far, in early September was Mccommon'S first arrest. What was her reaction at that point when those initial charges of rape were brought on?
She was shocked. Her and her husband both were just, they acted shocked about the whole incident. You know, she had been a teacher for years and taught hundreds, I would suppose, maybe thousands of students. And, you know, this is the first time something like this came up. So yeah, she was very surprised.
So then if we're moving forward to her second arrest just a couple of weeks ago in late September, she had been out on bond after that first arrest, but then is arrested again. And prosecutors are saying this is because she directly violated bond and contacted one of the alleged victims. I guess what do you have to say about that?
One of the victims.
Yeah, well, it was a bond condition. And so if it's proven that she did try to contact an alleged victim, then yeah, that's a violation of the bond conditions and probably fulfills some of the
money
criteria
gone
for the offense. But again, my position is there's just limited evidence that she did. I mean, there's two sides to that.
Listen,
so if she didn't, obviously, then she's not guilty of these new offenses. But if she did, I mean, that gives me pause, you know, on the mental state, because she got very lucky. We were able to get her a very reasonable bond considering the charge. And honestly, I believe the prosecutor and we were very surprised by the initial bond. It was very low. And I think there were other factors that played into why the first judge set such a low bond. In any event,
yeah,
she
why?
was kind of lucky that she had that bond. So I would be shocked if someone got out on such a low bond and had the opportunity to remain free. And honestly, it would have probably been through spring. You know, the way most of these cases in Tennessee, especially Tippy County, the way most of them work, they don't do this where they arrest them in general sessions court. They don't arrest them and then they come in and have a freedom. And part of the reason for that is, like, for instance, the preliminary hearing, they're probably going to have to put a victim on. Well, if a victim has really been victimized, why would you re-victimize them multiple times and have them testify? And so if you arrest a person and put them in through sessions court, there's a prelim that as a decent lawyer, I'm not going to waive the prelim, so they know that this juvenile or juveniles, whoever it is going to have to testify. So then the problem becomes it moves to circuit court in Tennessee, which is our trial court. And at that court, there could be a trial where, again, they may have to testify. So we were aware something was coming beforehand. They had contacted her. She knew that they were talking to her about it. That's why they came and talked to us. So I immediately reached out to the detectives and the district attorney to let them know the direct correspondence to me. And everybody sort of had an understanding that this would go through circuit in a way to protect alleged victims, because it's possible once you get to circuit court and the prosecutor gives me, we do discovery with motions practice, all these things in circuit. We start to see what evidence is or isn't there. Well, if it's just insurmountable evidence, there might have been some form of negotiated plea. And again, the juveniles may have never had to testify. So we were all very surprised when the Covington Police Department decided to go ahead and arrest her anyway. And I do feel at the time it was probably prompted by all this media attention on the case, instead of doing it the normal way that we would do it. However, if they did that and then she gets out on bond and did do any of these allegations on bond, well, it could have been correct. But that is all yet to be seen. That's the thing.
What does he say?
Right now, she's being crucified by the court of public opinion.
Crucified.
And, even I don't know what the proof's going to show.
So you mentioned the relatively low bond the first time, $25,000, saying that you and others were shocked by it. But now she's being held without bond. Do you think that that is the appropriate response?
I mean, if she did violate bond terms, I could see that being the appropriate response. But I felt like in the bond revocation hearing, the proof was very limited that she did. I was very surprised. I thought the judge was probably going to say, because again, the optics on the case.
She would do it again.
You know, these judges and
All right, brief intermission. I think it's common sense that she would do it again. Who has money to keep bonding this lady out? If they up the bond, let's say the judge decided to say, I'm going to up your bond. She would still be trying to reach out to the little boy and any other person, because now you're saying plural. They're saying plural. She would have continued to do it. I think that's obvious. She would have continued to reach out to the students, victims, alleged victims, because she's ill. I don't know who's crazier, she or this attorney.
It realized there's a lot of eyes on the case, and it won't necessarily change what you would or wouldn't do, but you're very aware of what the public is seeing and thinking. And so what I thought would happen is that she would probably get a really high bond.
She should have had a high bond day one,
which would be high for this area. And then, you know, I'd already talked to her family. They're not wealthy people, so it's very unlikely that she would have gotten out. But the judge just felt that the text messages and the phone call was sufficient to meet the burden.
Yes, it was.
To revoke the bond, and that's what the judge decided to do.
I wanted to touch on a couple of things you just brought up. You mentioned Mccommon'S saying that she had been crucified in the court of public media, talking about how this is a case that's been covered, you know, coast to coast across the nation. So I'm wondering, why are you speaking out now? What is Mccommon'S reaction to all this publicity?
Yeah, well, just to be clear, she didn't say that, I did. So, and, you know, as a defense lawyer, we typically, well, everybody's different, but we typically don't speak out on this kind of stuff. But this case has gotten so much media attention, social media attention. There was a site that was literally devoted to, and I was misquoted in one interview. I made the comment that it was basically a witch hunt now, and I wasn't referring to Mccommon'S. I was referring to how the public is just crucifying anybody even associated with her, like other teachers, coaches, the lawyers, the nobody was safe.
Well, I need to change my title then.
The office, the detectives, like everybody, it's just crazy. It's a lot largely based on ignorance. But the problem we have on our end is, you know,
let me stop right there, because I heard you say that earlier, because I listened in on this before going live. How are some of us ignorant? Because we believe what? Now, are you speaking ignorant in the general terms of just grouping anybody in with her as a guilty party? Well, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not getting ready to stalk her children, stalk her mother, father, neighbors because of what she has done. That's what some other sicko wacko people might do, random people, YouTubers or media junkies, media reporters. Everybody's not the same. Because as you keep saying, I have limited information. I have limited information. Well, sir, we're in the month of October now. So I think you need to giddy up on your horse and start talking to your client. Well, what are you waiting on? She doesn't know this. She ain't said nothing about this. She's shocked. Well, guess what? We're shocked alongside her. The husband's shocked. How can she be shocked when she, 9 times out of 10, she probably did do this? I'm not about to sit here and think this is made up. Because I won't doubt that's her on that phone. That's the whole reason why the conversation was recorded. And anybody with sense would know not to go pretend to be her. It doesn't sound like a person whispering on the phone. Hey, don't tell anybody. Hey, I'm pregnant. When the baby comes out, I'll leave you alone. The person wasn't whispering. So that's another thing that just dawned on me. The person isn't whispering on the phone. So anybody who's pretending to be her would know, okay, I don't sound like her. They're probably going to get a voice analyst to compare the voices. They're going to get the victim, ding, 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 to say, is this her or not on this audio call? Jesus, give somebody some credit here. You're just making it sound like everybody here is a dodo bird listening to this story. Well, how about giving the person some credit that brought forward the allegation plus the other children? You don't think they're not going to ask the other children to listen to the audio? Wow, come on now. Hey, want to play you something. Tell me if this is your teacher or not. The child's either going to say, yes, that's her voice. No, it's not. Wow, this lawyer's something else.
Just prep a case like you're going to trial. And if I'm going to trial on a case like this, one, I have to attempt to get an alternative narrative out there. I have to attempt to let the public say, oh, wait, our Constitution guarantees her a defense no matter what. And the state has to be held to the burden to prove that she did any of this, which has not happened yet. So I don't want jurors on there that have seen all this stuff and, are so biased against her that there's just no way she can get a fair trial. So we track everything. We have a paralegal specifically assigned to track all the media attention, all the social media interactions. We file all that stuff because I feel very likely there's probably going to be a motion to change venue in this.
Honey, let me tell you something. Tennessee is a long state. And there are some people who do not keep up with national news, state news. I'm sure there are quite a few people in Tennessee who have heard about Mrs. Mccommon. You want to change the venue because people are talking. Well, you could thank the state for that. The state is the one. They are the ones who played the audio in court. So they can make sure she doesn't get out of jail again. That was the purpose, I'm assuming, for playing the audio, is to make sure she doesn't try to get back out. Because she's not going to adhere to any rules. That's the reason why you have this case anyway, because she is a rule breaker. If I'm to believe she assaulted this child and other children, she's a rule breaker. And the fact that a person, let's just say she's committed this crime, because you don't believe she did it. Of course you wouldn't. What crazy person gets money to be bonded out of jail and then don't even wait a month before contacting the victim, the alleged victim? Who does that? And we know that people do it, but it's just hard to believe, guilt or innocence, as you love to say, that a person would say to themselves, I've got to preserve my life. I've got children. I got a family. I've got a husband. I'm not going to say anything to this kid or these kids. I'm just going to let everything play out. Let my attorney do his job. Hire the investigators to get me out of this mess. Even if I know I'm guilty of sin, just let him do his job. She ran out of breath to contact this kid. So that's why you want a mental evaluation to see why a person will go run out of breath to contact a victim, because people do this. It's just hard to believe it. But restraining orders are issued every day. The person still goes and contact the victim, call them, go by the house, bang on the door, bang on the walls, go to their job, message. But she should know better due to the fact this is a child bringing forward the allegations. And going to him trying to say, don't do this, don't do this. It's all contradictory, because you can't in one breath say, I didn't do this. Hey, is it you? Hey, I don't know who I'm talking to. Then send a code word. Then start talking about the allegations. Then allegedly admit it's her. Then you say, no, she didn't admit that it was her. The cop only talked to her briefly. He doesn't really know that's her voice. Blah, blah, blah. He's talked to her. What? What do you consider briefly? 10 minutes? 5 minutes? 30 minutes? 1 hour? Because we don't even know how long she sat in interrogation. If she was interrogated, if she spoke, I don't know. But you say, oh, he only spoke to her briefly. He don't know that's her voice on that audio. Okay. This is bad.
But then the question is, where do you change venue in a case like this? So
Yeah,
that's
right.
sort of why we are open to speaking, at least limited what I can speak to. Because it's just important for people to realize whether she's guilty or innocent. These are heinous crimes. I mean, obviously this is terrible.
Yeah.
And I would hate for anyone to be a victim of something like this. And I don't like folks that have done this kind of stuff. I'm human too, right? However, my job is to protect her rights, period. And it's constitutionally
mercy,
whether she did or didn't do this. Right now, she maintains her innocence. Right now, she is innocent.
Until proven guilty.
Right now, she's innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And so the state has the burden to prove she's guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So until she does that, right now, I know the prosecutors are speaking some, the detectives and the police chief are speaking. So we just need to make sure that the public at least hears that alternative narrative.
You yourself just mentioned it. These are some pretty serious accusations, not just rape, but then we also have coercion of a witness, all against a 12-year-old, a boy, a student. So I've spoken to multiple experts about this case throughout multiple different news stories I've done. Many of them say the prosecution has a very strong case against Mccommon'S. So how do you, the defense, plan to do that?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Well, that's interesting because none of us have seen all of the evidence. I mean, literally all we have right now is an allegation from an unproven witness that has not testified. I don't even know who that is. So like in Tennessee in Sessions Court, I'm not entitled to discovery evidence. So it's interesting that experts think that it's just
he doesn't know anything.
Case when I don't even have all the proof. That's scary to me that people think that, it's insurmountable when we don't see the evidence yet. So that's yet to be seen. Now, I mean, there's obviously some things that can come out that would significantly change the case and change the landscape of if there's a defense. But, we deal with a lot of cases that are he said, she said. Another thing you just mentioned, so the allegation is initially a rape of a child, which is an A felony. And the allegation is some obviously inappropriate occurrence happened when the child was 12. Well, my understanding is that was years ago. So the second follow-up allegations of the coercion of a witness and harassment and all that, that's on an older, I want to say the allegation is against a 15-year-old who potentially could have been the alleged 12-year-old. I don't even know that. I don't know the names of the alleged victims. I don't know anything about them other than what you do. So again, I would ask that everyone, experts included, see what the proof is, and it could go either way. I don't know. We'll see. But no, my position is all we've had presented in proof is an affidavit that is unproven. We don't have a witness. We don't know who the alleged victim is. We don't have a statement from the alleged victim.
Say you don't know.
A written statement yet from the alleged victim to look at.
You don't know anything.
And then all they presented at that bond revocation hearing was text messages from an unregistered number.
Lord.
Without the phone, they don't know where the phone is. And then a phone call that is claimed to be Miss Mccommon'S, but the only proof that was her was her.
It's probably in the Mississippi River. Because it seems like people like dumping bodies in the river as of late down there in Memphis. Yeah, it's a bad joke, but I'm going to say it. Maybe that's where she threw the phone. Maybe she threw the phone on the Arkansas side of the damn Mississippi River.
One time weeks ago, it's just not as strong as people are saying that it is. Now, it might grow and become super strong. I don't know. I just wish people would be patient because the system is set up for a reason. The state has the burden to prove it. And unless they do that, she's innocent right now.
This is definitely a case that we're going to want to continue to follow as more developments come. I mean, you mentioned we're still in the early stages here. So, Jerry, we really do appreciate you taking the time to give us Alissa Mccommon'S side of things.
I appreciate you guys listening to our side of things. Thank you.
Right now, Mccommon'S is still being held without bond in the Tipton County Jail. She's due back in court in November. Reporting for Long Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
All right, everybody. That is the said information pertaining to the attorney. Let's chop up what he had to say. And yes, I'm going to concur. She and any defendant is innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to remain silent. You do not have to tell anything that you don't want to tell. pertaining to an allegation against you in a court of law. He doesn't know anything because naturally he doesn't get privy to information in the beginning. So right now she's innocent. So you say. The only verification is of a detective who spoke to Miss Alissa briefly. They did not provide a victim to verify that that is her voice on the audio call. There is no register of the phone number and it belonging to a human being. Right now, they are currently trying to trace that phone. It is also a disposable phone, and the phone has not been recovered. Where was the phone purchased? Did this phone belong to Miss Alissa Mccommon? Is she the audio voice speaking to this child? Or is it someone who got access to his code word and bought a dummy phone from Wally World or the Dollar General and called him and sent him these text messages claiming to want to talk to him and ask him to not talk? That she is pregnant, whoever she is, some mystery female out there. Oh my goodness. What has or have the detectives searched for pertaining to her home, storage units, cars, etc.? What have they found thus far? This commentator asked him if his client is pregnant. He can't say or confirm or deny either because basically this attorney doesn't know a damn thing. He has pause in this case, naturally because he knows her, and his own child was in her class. And as I discussed with you briefly at the beginning of this live stream, his child has nothing negative to say about her as a teacher or any inappropriate actions upon his own child. He also asked his child of any he said, she said in the schoolhouse. The child says he has not heard of anything pertaining negative of this lady, any proprieties against a child. He is also still in the school system. He is 18 years of age. I do believe it's a conflict of interest because you have dealt with her on a personal level. If it was just one day you met up at the Pizza Hut or you've had dinner with each other, you've talked to her husband, you were a deputy, the husband was a deputy, I think you should not have taken the case, sir. But you wanted the case because 9 times out of 10, you're a clout chaser like everybody else, and you're trying to judge everybody as far as judging other people according to her dirty deeds. I'm not judging anybody according to her dirty deeds because, as you keep saying, you don't know anything. Well, Queen doesn't know anything either. So I'm not here to judge her children, her husband, the neighbor, the gardener, because in the end, all we've heard is that the allegations are against her. We haven't heard that anybody else was a tag along, that there was anybody else in conjunction to the allegations. Mental evaluations. Obviously, he wants this done because of her violating the bond, reaching back out to the victim, alleged victim. She has said nothing pertaining to these allegations. The other students bringing forward allegations. He can't confirm or deny anything. Oh my God, I'm out of breath. What does her husband have to say? Because somebody put up the money initially to get her out of jail. A very low bond, as he has kindly told us. A very low bond for their area. As he has said, with this type of crime, it would possibly be in the 1 million ballpark range. Yes, so let's ask the judge, why did you give her such a low bond? Maybe you knew something we didn't know, such as she would be stupid enough to violate the damn bond to go back in jail. You keep saying limited proof of her guilt. You were asked about the husband. What was his reaction as well? You said he was shocked. This is the first time any allegation has come up against her, is it? Because we have learned in certain demographics where there have been many allegations against certain people, but it's a matter of who wants to believe it and push forward to bring it out, such as contacting law enforcement. Will we hear that there were allegations against her, but they were never pulled forward by the administrators at the school, other teachers, parents, so on and so forth? Is why she is currently held in the county jail without bond. The original bond was revoked. And that is because of these reaching out to a child or children. So he's speaking of not even knowing who's whom. If the person that came forward is the actual person from years ago that was a certain age, I was kind of confused because we are getting different numbers of how old the child is. 1 minute he's 15, 1 minute he's 16, 1 minute he's 14. So I'm confused myself. Then we're talking about other children coming forward. So how many children are we speaking of? One network says multiple. So the person she violated at 12 in her house, is that the same person who's now 15, 16? Or are we talking about different children? I don't know. Because the damn lawyer doesn't know anything, so why would the queen know anything? You keep talking about her mental state. And it don't matter if you're guilty or innocent, naturally you would be stressed. You're amazing. But you're doing what most lawyers do, sugarcoating shit. Yeah, I guess I would be stressed if I committed a crime and someone's brought forward an allegation against me, because I got to now figure out how I'm going to get my way out of this. I guess I would also be stressed if I was innocent. Somebody brought forward an allegation against me, because I still got to figure my way out of it. So you are absolutely correct, sir. And once again, why such a low bond? Because I think most of us know that if this was a male perpetrator, the bond would have been much higher, especially when you start talking about more children coming out and actual penetration of body parts. Well, now. You said you don't believe a victim would be re-victimized by testifying during sessions court. Possibly the victim or victims would testify during trial. You also mentioned something about this case coming forward prompted due to the media. You feel like she's already being crucified. I'm trying to get a better understanding about this. What do you mean by prompted to arrest her? You mean initially, or the revoking of the bond? You also asked if it was appropriate, I guess pertaining to the bond. You said yes, if she did it. But once again, you say proof is limited. But due to the phone calls and the text, that was sufficient enough, I guess, for the judge to enter in an arrest warrant for Miss Mccommon's. You were asked about her reaction to the media. And you said, basically, you have been the one giving the commentary on behalf of your client. She has not spoken about her reaction to the media. And you usually do not speak to the media under these type of circumstances, allegations. But we will say this, you've had no problem talking to Law and Crime. So will we be hearing from you again, sir? You know, I'm almost an hour into this live and I'm not going to hold you. Everyone's entitled to his or her opinion pertaining to an allegation. And there have been many times that a person has been falsely accused of a crime. But the one crime that I find very interesting and hard to comprehend being false is that of touching a child, rape of a child. And it is not to say that a child has never lied on an individual of misconduct by an adult or maybe even another child. But I don't hear of it often. But like I said, it's not to say that it has not ever happened. Of course it has happened. But I think the phone call and the text are damning against your client, sir. And I would suspect that the state will bring in a voice expert. They will also bring in other people who know the victim to listen to the damn call. They're going to bring in the actual person who brought forward the allegation, the child, to ask him if this is his teacher, former teacher. They're also going to ask any other children who have allegations against her to also listen to the audio to verify is that her or not. Anybody with a pulse that knows her. You think they're not going to even ask her own children to listen to the audio to say, is this your mother or not? You think they have not already asked people to listen to the audio? I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have done searches of her home, her personal belongings, her personal effects, whatever she had at the schoolhouse, anything in storage, data, apps. And that's where the house of cards are going to fall. I do believe that is she on the audio. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I won't doubt that that is she on the audio because Alissa has a lot to lose. Now, naturally, she didn't care about her life, her livelihood, her children, or her husband. But most people don't when they are in dealings with the devil. You're not thinking about ramifications. You're getting what you want at the time, so you don't care about anybody else. She has a sick fascination for boy children. So why is she caring about her child and her children and her husband and what the PTA is going to think and what the other teachers are going to think and the neighbors and her parents? She obviously didn't care. And this is what happens when you are self-absorbed and you're a narcissist and you're a sociopath. You're not thinking about other people. People do it every day. She's not the first person to commit a crime. Although this is a very nefarious, sick crime, but people break the law every day and they don't ponder shit until later. She's sick. And it won't matter about you getting a mental evaluation. Because if they can go dig in the belly of the beast and pull out more commentary in her data, all hell is going to break loose. It won't matter about the jurisdiction. All hell is going to break loose, sir. You start bringing these children up to testify what happened, how they were approached by her, the dates, the time, the things she said, if they kept the text messages, because a lot of young people and older people too, they keep their messages. I rarely keep any text messages. But in this day and time, it's probably best that you do keep your damn text messages because you just don't never know what can happen. This is why a lot of people have gone down because somebody kept the damn messages and they kept them too. So imagine digging in the belly of the beast and everybody's text messages come out. You're going to have to use deduction Why is this lady messaging these boy children inappropriately? Their responses to her text messages. And you're going to have to go in a court of law and say, all this is made up and fabricated by some random children who were her students and or in the schoolhouse where she taught or district. Hello, Miss Hippie. And I think that's where your problem's going to be. Because as you said, everybody says it's, they got a lot of proof. They got a lot of proof. Well, see, that's the story. It isn't time for you to get the evidentiary material as of yet, and you don't know everything that the state has gathered thus far. Because if you have multiple children besides the original allegation, you have a big problem. Because we all have to ask the first question. Why boy number 1? Why boy number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Or however many there are. God forbid they've kept the text messages. They've kept photographs. You're going to have a big problem with the photographs, sir. That's why I don't doubt she did contact the boy child. She did use the code word. That is her on the audio and the text messages. She used a burner phone and threw the phone away. But if these children have naked pictures of Alissa, how in God's name are you going to explain that to 12 members of a damn jury? Where would they get naked pictures from of their teacher? I'll wait. Now you just ponder that, since the state don't got nothing. It's all a lie. She's innocent until proven guilty. There's a witch hunt out for anybody that knew her, blah, blah, blah. It ain't gonna matter when they show them damn pictures in court of her naked. And then you start showing different children with text messages and naked pictures. And all it takes is somebody start heaping and hollering in the courtroom and crying with disgust. Her fate is sealed. So I'm going to say this to Alissa Mccommon. If you sent any text messages that are derogatory in nature to any of these children or any other child, if you have sent naked photographs of yourself to these children, if you touched, groped, had sexual relations with any of these children, you should plead to the mercy of the court and ask for a plea. Do not prolong the inevitable. Do not subject yourself to further humiliation. Because we have learned with true crime, just as quick as we're talking about you, we'll be talking about another heathen 5 days from now. Because it is what it is. There will always be another heathen to replace another heathen. Do yourself a favor, Alissa. Admit that you did what you did. So you can move forward and your family can move forward. Because the longer you prolong this, you're only going to harm your family. Because it's obvious you don't give a fuck about yourself. You don't give a fuck about them. You don't give a damn about them. So in this one moment, you need to be unselfish and say, I'm caught. My foot was in the trap. I did those things. Whether you feel remorse or not, do the right thing and admit what you've done. Or enter a no contest plea and end this. Because you have children who have to be able to go to school and sever some type of life. And you're obviously not thinking about that by telling this man that you are innocent. Because I really don't think you want them to go digging in your personal data and pulling out all your nasty conversations and naked photographs. You should have enough pride about yourself to put an end to this. But this is what happens when you are self-absorbed and you are crazy as the dickens. You're sick. You're ill. And I don't know when you started messing with these children, how long you've been messing with boy children, why you have some sick fascination with boy children, but it doesn't really matter. That's between you and God in this. Because you have girl children who I am surely they are absolutely devastated. And they don't want to go to school. And they don't want to go out in public because of you. And as I have said, many people have been accused of many crimes falsely. And yes, it can ruin a reputation. It can even get a person hurt, killed. But I won't doubt that the state has a lot of goodies on you. And you should do the right thing and forfeit this. Any further commentary, just talk to your lawyer and say, I would like to talk to the state district attorney's office and put an end to this. Because you've already violated a child if we're to believe the allegations against you. And like I said, everyone's entitled to his or her opinion. Some of you may just wait till all the allegations come out and evidenced by the state against Miss Alissa Mccommon'S. But your children still have to walk around. So you can hide in that jail and cry and moan and make up stuff and get a little empathy, sympathy from this crazy nut in the jailhouse. That shit don't matter to nobody because most of them people in there don't care about themselves either. But your children deserve a childhood because you've already ruined these other kids' lives if we're to believe that you did touch them, had sex with them. And it's not to say that they can't grow up to be happy adults and or continue to have a happy life, but somebody's going to need to be talking to them and they're going to need therapy to know that what was done to them was inappropriate and wrong. And you owe them an apology. You owe your children and your husband an apology. You owe the school system an apology. You owe the town an apology. And then one day you will possibly try to make amends with yourself. And I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but you're going to need to have a little talk with God about what you've done to these babies. Because there is something wrong with you if indeed you molested these boys. And the fact that you had a whole human being to have sexual relations with, camaraderie, affection, he was your mate. And you chose boy children over a full-grown man, we know damn well there's something wrong with you. And I'm sure, as I said in my commentary last night, he is wondering what in the hell is wrong with you. What did I do wrong? Did I miss the signs? How did I miss the signs? Or maybe he saw some signs. I don't know. Because, you know, the one thing we've learned about crime, especially those who are dealing with the people personally, they do get to look back. Hindsight, as they always say, hindsight is 20/20. And there will be just a little bit of something or a whole lot of something that a person will say, I missed that. Oh, yeah, I see now. Because sometimes what we view as happy-go-lucky attitude, affectionate towards children, we are not thinking of the worst. Because why would somebody want to believe a woman is sleeping with a little boy? Why would somebody want to think a teacher hugging their student that they're ogling them in that way? Or a relative hugging a child, kissing on a child, that it's some sick fascination. Now, there are times when people do notice inappropriate hugging, kissing, groping. That is when you're supposed to call a person out and let them know, I don't mean any harm, but I don't like what I'm seeing. And if it's too overt, you have a right to say, I don't like what I'm seeing. And then you need to alert the authorities. Do the right thing, ma'am. Take a plea if they offer it. Save yourself. And save your children and family further embarrassment. Because as I said, I would hate to think of some children making this up. And that's the whole point, as this attorney has said. We don't know everything that they have, the state. But as I said, if the state can show photographs that directly are derived from Miss Mccommon'S phone line, her cell phone, or plural, you are not going to be able to explain how different children came about owning those photographs. And that's where you're definitely going to have a problem. How did they get them? Because you know that they will send her phone off for diagnostics, and it will show that the phones were taken by a person who held the phone, and that they were sent from the phone to another phone and not downloaded or shared. That's how savvy technology is. And if the diagnostics come back that the owner of the phone, which would have to be this lady, she sent them to these children, why are people going to think she didn't also touch the children? And God forbid they can give details of body parts, locations, personal effects in her home. If indeed she brought the children to her house, which there is one allegation that she did, you have a problem. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie 129, Cash App, stickers, and chats are always welcome to the live stream. Thank you for your time following this network, the commentary. Please comment below the video. I will put up another poll pertaining to the information by this attorney. Weigh in on your opinion. Do you believe this woman is innocent of the allegations against her? Do you believe she's been assaulted herself as a child? We ask a lot of questions. Do you believe she's brought some of these children home? Or she went out in a public place and accosted the children? How many children are we speaking of bringing forward allegations? How long has this been going on? Has she lived in this demographic all of her life? Lived anywhere else in the state of Tennessee or outside of this great state? And sweet Jesus, will they bring more children into this case? God bless America. Prayers for our children. Please talk to your children about inappropriate behaviors and let them know that they're not so nice people out here, because children need to know this. We don't want this to happen to another child or children. This is why you need to talk to your children. Don't feel shame talking to your kids about inappropriate touching. Let them know it's okay to tell you anything And if indeed they ever feel unsafe in the company of someone, even if it's a family member, they have every right to tell that family person, friend, neighbor, clergyman, woman, whomever, I don't feel comfortable, and tell them to run like hell and come tell you and or authorities or a teacher or somebody else. Because you do not want children holding this nasty secret, as so these children don't go out and exact this behavior on other children and other adults, and also become a pedophile himself or herself. Perhaps I will do a little bit of research pertaining to the makings of a pedophile, and I'll bring that information to this network. Because I was listening to some information from A&E last night, kind of dozing off listening to it, and it was talking about some of the most prolific serial killers, and one guy's opinion that the worst one he could think of would be John Wayne Gacy. My opinion would have been possibly Dahmer, because Dahmer held his victims and ate his victims. To me, that would be the worst. Because in the end, they all, I believe, intentionally knew they were going to kill these victims. Each person's style may have been different or a little bit similar, but they were predators nonetheless. And that is what Miss Mccommon'S is, and we're to believe she exacted these crimes against these children. Predator is a predator. The MO may never be the same by each, but they are predators nonetheless. And that's what's scary about all of them, that they were out seeking victims. And I don't believe any of them had any remorse for these people. And that is what is very scary. Thank you for your time. You have been listening to The Vault XL.